Hey, what is up guys? My name is Oleg, this is Bond. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. In this video, let's do a video comparison between two very different watches. Some might say this video comparison is pretty pointless, and I would agree with that. But hey, let's have some fun. Let's compare Seiko 5 SNKK71 to Daniel Wellington Glasgow. One of these watches is one of my favorite watches of all time, and the other one, failed to impress me. But hey, I have some free time on my hands, so why not go for it? Enjoy the video. So here's the moment nobody was waiting for, nobody asked for, and it's pretty obvious who's gonna win. Nevertheless, I have a camera, I have some free time, so let's get into this duel. Now, right off the bat, I did a review for both of these watches that could be found on my channel. And because I still had access to Daniel Wellington, I decided why not do a fun video and compare the two in these 6-7 different categories that I made up. How many do I have here? I have 7 in 7 different categories that I just made up. I've seen other YouTubers do this type of comparison, and I was trying to think of a different way to do it, but then I took a nap and decided not to think about it anymore. So here we are. I'm just gonna do it in the same way as everybody else does it. However, I did make up some different categories. So what we have here, we have design, we have finishes and quality, we have the purpose for which the watches were designed for, we have the movement, value for money, brand relevance, and coolness factor with the little cool guy emoji there. And as we go through these categories, I will kind of explain what each category means in my little silly mind. And of course, this is super official review, even has our channel logo on it, so you know it's real. So let's get started with the design. So design wise, I think both watches deserve 8s. I think Daniel Wellington, its strongest feature is actually its design. I said it before when I was reviewing this watch, if I were to design a dress watch, it would look very similar to this watch, except for a different size. I think 41 millimeters with this very thin bezel around the dial is a little bit too big for a dress watch. So overall, I really like the design. I gave it an 8. And of course, keep your own scores at home if you like to, and let me know what scores you gave each watch in each one of these categories that I just made up. Seiko then gets a solid 8. I think this design here is an amazing design, and we'll talk more about the purpose of the watch in the third category, but I think this design works for both as a kind of an everyday watch, as a sports watch, but also it works as a dress watch. So that's why Seiko gets a solid 8. I think it's a beautiful looking watch. The day-to-date window at 3 o'clock, the crown at 4 o'clock, the tiny crown that kind of hides behind the case. Everything about this watch I really like. There are some things that I would improve. That's why I gave it 8 and I didn't give it a full 10. And that's why I gave the Daniel Wellington an 8, because of that large size. If it was a bit smaller, I might have given it a 9 or a 10. Oh, and one more thing, just to show that this review or this comparison is 100% unbiased, 100% real. I'm using this manual from my favorite watch manufacturer that has nothing to do with this review. 100% unbiased, 100% real. Let's move on to finishes and quality. So finishes and quality, 8 for Seiko, 4 for Daniel Wellington. Let's start with Seiko then. So the Seiko has some pretty nice finishing touches. We have polished bezel all around, gives it a nice kind of a shiny look, and then we have a brushed finish on this side with a transition to the polish. And here the slug is kind of doing the opposite. So we have a brushed finish on the larger portion of the lug, and we have a polished finish on the outer portion here, and again it transitions into the brushed finish. So really nicely done. The only reason I gave it an 8 and then give it a full 10 is because I feel like some of these finishes could be done a little bit better. Again, they're done fairly well, especially for the price, which we'll get into in a later category. But overall, it's done really, really well. And of course, we have the display case back to see this automatic movement. So the Daniel Wellington gets a 4. I think their finishes are done fairly competently. It's all stainless steel finishes. However, there's not as much attention to detail as there is in Seiko. Both watches actually have mineral crystal. We have a hardlex crystal in the Seiko, and I'm actually not sure what type of mineral crystal is in this Daniel Wellington, but it already has a pretty big scratch on this crystal here. Now, big shout out to my friend Evgeny for lending me this watch for this review. He's been wearing this watch for about 2 years now, so it held up pretty well, and that's why I'm giving it kind of a 4, because again, it's not done terribly and it held up pretty well, so the quality is there, but it's not done nearly to the standard that the Seiko is done. And once you kind of see it up close, and once you see the case back, and once you see all the other finishes, you understand that Seiko is definitely a lot better. Next up, the purpose. So what I mean by purpose, I mean what this watch was designed to do and how well it performs that task. So this Seiko SNKK71 is the reference number of this specific Seiko 5. I guess it was designed as more of an everyday watch. So to be fair, it did come on the bracelet. I just changed it onto this leather strap myself. But as you can see on this leather strap, it becomes sort of an everyday watch. So you can wear it with jeans and a t-shirt, but you can also dress it up because of this beautiful leather strap and because of the thin profile of this watch. And you can wear it with the suit and wear it to really a formal occasion, and it would look great. It wouldn't look out of place. The size of about 38 millimeters makes it a perfect dress watch, as well as on the bracelet, it makes it a great sports watch. I wore this watch to the gym numerous times. I wore it while skiing and snowboarding, and it performs great as a sports watch. The only reason why it didn't get a higher than a 7 is because of a low water resistance. So this watch only has 30 meters water resistance, and I'd like it to have at least 200 meters water resistance to be considered a perfect sort of everyday watch. So let's look at Daniel Wellington here. The Daniel Wellington got a 5. I think this watch is a little bit too large to be considered a dress watch. It does have a very thin profile, and I think it would look nice on a leather strap like Seiko has. However, I still think it's a little bit too large to be considered a dress watch. So I would kind of see this as being an everyday watch, but because it again has a low water resistance rating, so this watch has 30 meters or 100 feet water resistance. It's not good enough to be swimming with, and also why it has a lower mark than Seiko, because you can't really wear this watch to the gym or anything like that. It would just look ridiculous, and you can't really wear it to doing any sporting activities, even if you put it on a bracelet, which in fact you can't. And again, I understand it's not designed as a sports watch, but as an everyday watch. If you had a one watch for all everyday situations, I would take Seiko over this watch here. Next up, the movement. Now, no surprise here, the Seiko gets a 7, Daniel Wellington gets a 1. Let's start with the Daniel Wellington this time. It gets a 1 simply because it's just a cheap quartz movement. It says Japanese B11 movement, whatever that is. I'm not sure what it is, but definitely not Seiko's automatic movement, and it's just a 1 automatically because it's a cheap quartz movement. Now the Seiko then, why does it get a 7 and not a 10? Well, because the Seiko has a 7S26 movement. It's kind of an introductory automatic movement. A lot of watch collectors started their collections with these Seiko 5s. The movement doesn't have hand winding, the movement doesn't have hacking, so that's why it gets a 7 and not a full 10. However, for the price, it's amazing that you even get an automatic movement, and it's fairly accurate, and it still has a date and day functionality, so a solid 7. Next up, value for money, and Seiko gets a 10, Daniel Wellington gets a 1. And again, don't get me wrong, this is not an awful watch, it's an all right watch, but for the price of almost $300 US, it's definitely not worth that money. Quartz movement, the level of finishes, the lack of sapphire crystal, there are much better options. And again, I did a review of this watch. If you're interested in checking out some other alternative options, I mentioned them in the review. Tissot, Bambino, Orient Bambino, and of course the Seiko 5 that I'm comparing it to come to mind, but there are plenty of other watches that you can get at the $300 mark that would be a better value for money. That's why it gets a 1. Now Seiko, because I purchased mine on sale from Amazon Canada, I paid $54 US. I spent another $16 on this strap, so altogether it came to about $70 US for this watch to look like the way it does. And I think it looks amazing. It looks way more expensive than the $70 that I spent on it. And because it's automatic, because it has a date functionality, because it's all in-house movement, the quality of finishes, and just the whole package that you receive with this watch is far outweighs the price that you pay for it. And even if you buy it kind of at a regular price, I will leave some links in the description below. I think right now, without the sale, because the prices keep on changing, that's why it's very hard for me to post one exact price, but I think right now it's around $70 US. It's still worth that money, every penny of it. It gets 10 out of 10 for sure, value for money. Next up, brand relevance. So here we have an 8 for Seiko and a 3 for Daniel Wellington. Let's again start with Daniel Wellington. Daniel Wellington, it's not a horologically important brand. They don't have a lot of firsts like the Seiko does. They haven't been in business long enough to be horologically important. However, you can't deny the brand's popularity, and you can't deny what they have done in the designer watches industry. Like it or not, designer watches are now part of horology overall, and I think in 20 to 30 years from now we'll be looking back at these designer watches as we look back at the quartz crisis, and remember these memories, and remember how these designer watches came into our lives, and how everyone was wearing them, and how they disturbed the overall watch industry. And the brand recognizability is there. I mean, when you wear a Daniel Wellington on your wrist, a lot of people will know what brand it is, and a lot of people recognize that logo. It gets a 3 out of 10. Just it doesn't get a higher mark just because it doesn't have a lot of horological relevance. So the Seiko then, it gets a 8 out of 10. And the only reason why it doesn't get a higher mark is because it's not as kind of luxurious or not as aspirational of a brand as perhaps an Omega or a Rolex would be. It still is very recognizable. It still is an extremely important brand. As you can see, it's one of my favorite watch brands. Again, not biased at all in this review, just happened to have a Seiko manual during the numbers reveal here. But it's an important brand, and it's very recognizable. I mean, everybody knows what Seiko is, but it gets a lower mark than a 10. It gets an 8 because a lot of times in people's minds it's perceived as kind of a lower class brand, kind of a working class Rolex, if you will. That's why it gets an 8 and not a 10. But important brand, started the whole quartz crisis in the 80s, a lot of firsts, and of course some of my favorite watches come from Seiko. And lastly, coolness. with a cool guy emoji. Let's start this time with Seiko. So Seiko gets a 7. I think it's a cool watch to wear, again, whether you wear it on a bracelet, although the bracelet is not of the best quality and a lot of people hate those bracelets. I myself don't mind it too much, but I'll have to admit that the bracelet is pretty bad. So as soon as you buy these watches, you kind of expect to replace the bracelet, but just wearing this watch, you do feel cool, you feel different, and you also feel like you've done your homework, you've done your research to purchase this specific watch. I think people don't buy the Seiko SNKK71 by accident. I think you have to do a little bit of homework. I think you have to kind of know what you're buying. Usually you buy them online, so a lot of research goes into it, as well as to wear an automatic movement watch. You have to love watches because, let's face it, automatic movements are a little bit of a hassle. They're not as accurate as quartz, and also they require more maintenance. You have to wind them, you have to change the dates, you have to fix the accuracy, and if you leave it on the table for too long, they lose time, so you have to adjust the time, you have to do the Seiko shuffle. So I think the overall coolness of this watch comes from you enjoying wearing watches, you enjoying the watch history, horology, and that's why you would wear one. Now, a Daniel Wellington gets a respectable 4. I think the coolness factor is not as appealing as it is with the Seiko, and especially talking to some people who know about watches, watch enthusiasts. They don't even have to be watch snobs, quote unquote, but just people that are interested in watches. They will kind of ding you in the social status for wearing one of these watches. That's why it gets a lower mark for the coolness factor, just because you're losing out on those points with watch guys, and also just because there are much better alternatives for this watch, and because you didn't do your homework, you're not as cool as if you did. Now, not to say that this watch is not cool to wear at all. It gets a respectable 4 because it still has that brand recognizability. It still is a very stylish watch, probably one of the best simplistic designs out there. So it gets a solid 4, but not even close to being 10. So what are the final scores then? Well, unsurprisingly, Seiko SNKK71 wins over Daniel Wellington Glasgow, and the scores are 55 to 26. I think this was no surprise for anyone that the Seiko, super unbiased, won this round. This video was just for fun. If you own a Daniel Wellington, this is not to make you feel bad in any way. It's a designer watch, and all we do is have fun on this channel. Alright guys, so that was my comparison between the Seiko 5 and the Daniel Wellington. I know it was jam-packed with great content, and what a twist ending. Who would have predicted that the Seiko 5 would win this showdown? I appreciate you watching until the end. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. If you did, click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Maybe you kept the track yourself. What scores did you give to each watch? I'm curious to see. Thanks for watching, and by the way, Bond is doing much better. Earlier this week he had an ear infection, but now he seems to be back to normal, snoring 100% all the time. I'll see you next time. Bye.